It is my point of view of the regional climate, the business in the region, and we call it climate clients and challenges which we have. I do everything possible to be a lot more optimistic and positive than some of my colleagues from up here have been earlier in the day. That's not that I'm running around with a pair of pink glasses, but for me the glasses always are full one, and there's always a challenging environment, not only in this region but elsewhere as well. So if we get to the next slide, where's the ticker? Here it is. So, where are we? We are in the Middle East, predominantly GCC, and in particular here in Dubai. And that's my perspective from where I'm looking at things. If we look and take the parametry for the health and the growth of economy, then you can take the IMF forecasts for the GDP, the gross domestic product, which is obviously the benchmark for the health of an economy. And you will see that for Saudi and the UAE in particular, there is no letdown of the economy to significantly shrink. And if we put this into perspective with other global markets, then we are quite well off. So there is reason to not be quite so negative, be cautious, but retain a level of positivity to wanting to do business. The impact VAT is going to have in the market with the introduction most predominantly in Bahrain, in Saudi and in the UAE, which will affect the economy, and that's reflected in future assumptions, but it will not affect aviation, since the aviation industry in its provision of services is going to be zero rated. Now, if we consider the observations of the World Bank doing business report for 2018, taken at the World Economic Forum, then we can see that the UAE in particular presents to be an attractive location for doing business, to playing in the upper leagues of nations, to giving confidence to people wanting to do business. And I'll refer to this a little bit later, but we have all reasons in the climate, in the UAE in particular, to take the risk, and it's something that I have that I keep observing when we are talking about business parameter forecasts, to keep a level eyesight. For the last 20 years, apart from a fluke explosion of activity in 2007, 2008, we have continued to be in a very challenging environment, and that's not going to change. And it's particularly not going to change in the concept of all the world regions. And insofar, I strongly believe that the UAE, and maybe in future with impending changes in Saudi, that there remains to be a positive outlook if we compare it with other markets in the world. So, what does our business drive? It's personal, it's corporate wealth. And the UAE in particular is very attractive, not only to the old money of the UAE in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai, but also for international players who fully or partly reside in the region. So the financial service provider Shua, which I'm not on commission with, counts 35 billionaires. Yeah, it has the UAE I'm talking about, it's the second largest population of ultra high net worth individuals, and that is asset in excess of $100 million. After Saudi, with a population of 810 ultra high net worth individuals in the UAE, controlling $120 billion, We have Saudi pretty much doubling the exercise with 1,265 individuals controlling 230 billion of assets. Well, that's obviously the oil in the engine driving our industry. And yes, it is a difficult market, but it is not a desperate market. And show me any business in at levels of complexity, like the business we're dealing with, where being successful is a walk in the park. I've not seen it. And what we can also see here is that there is a positive development anticipated for the growth of individual wealth. We had this global discussion about the rich getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, but it would be a little bit cynical if we weren't fully conscious about the fact that we are the opportunists of scooping up of the fact that the rich people are getting richer. And that's clearly indicated on those numbers. I don't need to go into the details and run it down by the numbers, but the fact is the growth is anticipated. And with anticipated growth of the number of rich people, of ultra high net worth individuals and successively billionaires, they will ensure the survival of our business. So the positivity of my outlook here stems from the fact that there is potential, and this potential will be growing. It will not exponentially grow. And if I go back to my early years in the business, I was so amazed by the forecasts of the single aisle OEMs or the remaining markets. In the times of 2007, 2008, you weren't able to get a 7X that was supposed to come on the market in 2012. And you weren't able to buy a position up until 2017. Now that obviously changed immediately. And the entire market has become a lot more conservative in its assumptions, but the cautiousness does not warrant a negativity in our outlook, how we look at business. So where do I see the challenges? And I'm speaking from an aircraft operator, an aircraft management service provider's perspective. Then obviously the economical uncertainty in the market is something that we're looking out for. The subsequent effects on the oil market. We were suffering of a nearly 24 months low with a recent recovery. Indications of, I think, the last week or so showed that there may be a little bit of a slowdown on that, but it has eased the pressure on some of the local players here who highly thrive on the oil price. So with the maturing of our business and maturing insofar that it's adjusting to the actual requirements, then we're obviously influenced by the aircraft charter market that's under pressure. It is a big challenge for aircraft operators to manage aircraft charter, to attaining the yields, to withstanding the prohibitive offerings in the market. If you start offering block hour rates very close to no gain, very close to operating cost, then really this takes the reason for doing business. If we look into the transactions of aircraft joining the market, then we have the occasional new joiner, the horizontal entrant into the owner market, but I'm pretty confident that the majority of you would agree that the most transactions that are being concluded is upgrades of aircraft from small to larger, and that very much goes in line with the observation that there is going to be a lot higher accumulated wealth towards the ultra-high net worth individuals, and this, I believe, is something that we see. What concerns us here in the UAE with the GCA, that on one hand I have to give it to them, they do hard work in providing a very stringent regulatory framework, and stringency for very good reasons. because it guarantees safety. And I'm going to raise my concerns about the orientation or the alignment of regulatory expectations towards the airline business, which is in slight contrast to our requirements. But let's make no mistake here. Stringent safety regulations are to the benefit of the owner, of the user of an aircraft, and it's everybody's job here in this room, and I'm pleased to see that the room has filled up a little bit, taking into consideration the late time in the day. But we all play a role in this market. We all engage with the client, and our duty it is to provide the client with an offering that he deserves. This is the highest level of safety, and there must be no compromise. So where are the opportunities? The opportunities, and it might be a little bit selfish to speak from inside, out of my organization, Aviation group, here in particular Aviation Al-Futtaim. What we like is the entrepreneurial spirit in the UAE. And I keep hearing the Dubai bashing inside and outside the industry, but fact is that we have a client, a positive client, that allows for establishing businesses with a lot more ease than in other regions that I have worked for in the past. So the individual wealth and the concentration and the continued increase in the numbers of ultra-high net worth individuals, it is what's going to be our opportunities today and in the years to come. The region in particular, a little bit more than other locations maybe, and that applies to Saudi as much as it does for the UAE, is that there is a considerable demand in bespoke service solutions, which provides, again, opportunities for the credible, for the ambitious stakeholders in the market. So what are the characteristics of the market that we are doing business in? It is the continued drive for the UAE to firmly establish the UAE on world scale. The hosting of Expo 2020 has been an ambition to substantiate this, and it will be a historical benchmark for the further outlook in the coming years, and it will guarantee that the UAE is going to continue to be attractive, and more attractive than it might be already to some. What we have here obviously is a fast-paced society. It's, most of you, as much as I have worked or continue to work in different regions, and the speed of life, the speed of progress, the speed of change here in the UAE is quite phenomenal. And it's something that if you want to do business here in the market, you have to be prepared for. And it's, I've mentioned it on a number of occasions, is the high concentration of wealth per capita, and that obviously includes the local players that are originating from the UAE, as much as international clientele that is partly or fully residing in the UAE. So the business reality, and we had this discussion, Mike, we set up here last year, and it's something that I would like to re-emphasize and also bring it into context with client expectations, is if you want to do things right, if you want to comply with regulation, you're in for a very expensive exercise. The cost level of highly standardized operators remain on a high. Manpower first and foremost. An A6 AOC operating business jets needs to come along with the same credentials as an airline, with the same post holders, with the same pedigree, at comparative cost. Just our margins are a little bit different. And the client expectations that remain unchanged and put a significant demand on the aircraft operators in terms of flexibility and availability of aircraft, of lift. If you want to operate close to regulatory requirements, then this is a very challenging task. Crew factors, very good example. And I want to continue to go into small detail because it's not always very apparent to all the stakeholders in the room in their different functions. And that's something that reoccurred to me yesterday, having been invited to a focus group around connectivity, where there were two sessions, aircraft operators on one hand, and on the previous sessions, it was brokers. In terms of connectivity, there were completely different opinions on what the various different expert groups are expecting in terms of connectivity on commercial jets. The brokers, and please, nobody be offended, Andrew. The brokers see the convenience. My client deserves connectivity. The operator, who manages the aircraft, who maintains the aircraft, who provides for installation, who coughs up the bill at first. We had the case, Paul, not so long ago. We had a client, charter was signed up, the client traveled, he gets off the aircraft, he accumulates a nice bill, and he doesn't want to pay for it. That's the problems the operators are dealing with. Not so much the brokers, and it's quite understandable that each and everyone has got different expectations. But at the same time, we must not compromise, and I'm moving away from the subject of connectivity, but rather back to the fact that whilst the client expects high levels of flexibility and availability, but being very conservative on cost. Let's try and employ the little amount of crews possible. How about rest times? Yeah? How about all the flight crew duty time regulations that are associated with an aircraft operating commercially? Well, unfortunately, you will always find service providers in the market who are willing to make the sacrifice, who look away when it's about an 18-hour crew duty day for the flight flight crew. It's something that is not acceptable. Yeah? What must be accounted for, and it's included in my request to you, to remain thinking towards quality, is that the complexity of aircraft operation requires a committed level to oversight. But the regulatory directives and oversight require a balanced view. Most of the operator regulations are geared up towards airline requirements. Fixed schedules, fixed destinations, easy job, flights set up a year in advance if you like. We set up a flight in 3 to 6 hours. That is something, idle times, neutral times, crew duty times, that should be accounted for in the regulations for us as an operator to be able to operate within the limits of the crew duty regulation with an adjusted view towards the safe operation of a business jet rather than singularly looking towards the airline operation. And it has to be the support of high quality service solutions means clearly the compliance with the safety and airworthiness standards, and certainly enough, you will always find stakeholders in the market who make sacrifices, and I consider that not acceptable. What I would like to encourage you is, in all your different roles, on the financing side, as a financer, you must have got a vital interest to giving your aircraft, the asset that is in your books, to give it in somebody's custody that you've got confidence with. And you owe it to the client, because at the end of the day, we look at human lives and we must reduce risk to the possibilities in full extent. Quality or provision of service quality costs money, and please encourage your clients. Maybe just falling asleep, sorry. Yeah. Encouraging your clients to not make any sacrifices and choose the right operators. Thank you very much.
I think we should also have a rule that you don't pick up people falling asleep. You know,
I thought I was getting away with it.
And it is Hamish. There's a question. There's recently been talk about $100 per barrel oil returning. How quickly do you think this would be felt by the business jet market? And I think this is meant to be positively.
Okay. Well, I think this is a twofold observation. One, from an operator's perspective, in boiling the matter, it will make very little difference, considering that the region very much lives off the sale of oil, and a lot of stakeholders in the market being involved with the trade of crude oil, it would make a significant difference.
So quickly. Any more questions or comments? I think one thing you should just, maybe you should have done the first session, because as you've been speaking, 75% of people are feeling more optimistic.
Job done?
Thanks very much. Oh wait, stop. We have a comment. All UAE operators are of the same, and this is in capitals again, which I always love. It's sort of Trumpian. All UAE operators are of the same quality.
Yeah.
It's not fair to imply that you are somehow special. The GCAA is actively overseeing everyone. Controversial.
All pigs are equal, but some are more equal. Remember that one? Regulatory compliance is one thing, but fully complying on the basis of operation is another. And I just dare to say, and I wouldn't restrict it to the region, it goes beyond the region, that you will always have operators that make sacrifices. You speak to pilots, you speak to ops people, and we've all been in the industry for long enough to having been experienced, and there is no need to talking around it. There is no nicety attached to it. You will always find people who make the sacrifice to operate at lower levels, and I dare to say that, I'm going to stick with it.